time to get serious. Let's talk about weeds. Now, I had to think long and hard about sharing this with you because there are some jobs really that your adults need to do. There will be jobs for you to do later, and there are plenty of weeding jobs that you can help with, but not all of them. So there's a lot of information here for your grown-ups, okay? But don't worry, I will find you jobs to do as well. I don't have many weeds on my allotment anymore because I spent the time getting rid of a lot of really nasty weeds, and some of these are nasty, and that's another reason why your grown-ups need to do certain jobs. So my son said to me, "Don't worry Mum, you can use my allotment, it's got lots of weeds on it." That was really kind of you, thanks a lot. All you need to know is, if something is growing in the wrong place, it's a weed. I could have a beautiful rose bush in the middle of my potatoes and it would be a weed because it's in the wrong place. Grown-ups, don't worry, it doesn't have to be so much hard work. There are tricks that you can learn that will help you, and I'm going to share some of them with you now. When you first take on an allotment, you will come across lots of weeds. If it's in the wrong place, get rid of it. And the easiest thing to do is to use your spade, this is grown-up's job, and you skim it across the top of the soil. You're not digging, you're skimming. And it will just take the head off your weeds, just like that. Now that can go in the compost bin. Throw that over there. So, it's flat to the surface and skim it. You can quite quickly clear a bit of ground by skimming. Let's try and get that bit. Oh, forget-me-nots. Beautiful. Growing in the wrong place. It's a weed. See how quickly that's cleared that space? Now, we've got enough time on our hands for you to clear your entire plot with a teaspoon, but I think the best way to do it is to clear a bit of ground and then plant it up with whatever crop you want to put in, because we don't know if we're going to be able to get up here for the next 2 or 3 weeks, and if you don't plant it, the weeds will grow back. I can promise you that. Now, some of the weeds, you can literally skim them and they won't come back. Rosebay willow herb, oh my goodness. Leave that for a week, you'll have a whole field of it. Now, my little helpers, you can use a hoe. I've always got my hoe in my hand. Or one of these hoes. If you haven't got those, don't worry, you can use just the edge of your trowel, and you're doing exactly the same thing. You're scraping it along the top of the soil, and literally you're just taking the tops off the weeds, and then they dry out and die. So hoeing is so nice because you're not digging, it's nice and easy. Look how quickly that has cleared that bit of ground. And the roots will dry out and die because they haven't got the green part to feed them, and the green bit without the roots will just dry up and die. Actually, I'm going to put these in the compost bin. So there we go. You can, when you first get an allotment, you can skim the surface, and it doesn't matter if it's grass, nettles, docks or anything else. Skim the whole patch, and that will get rid of a lot of your weed tops. You can see how much space you've got then. But some weeds will come back, and I'm going to show you some of those next. Let me get my table. If you've taken on an allotment and there's a lot to clear, you could always cheat by covering it over. Now, there might be some wee beasties under here, so if I squeal, it's because I'm not sure what it is yet. Don't laugh at me. If you cover it over with black plastic, old carpet, or some of that weed membrane that you can buy from the shops, because the weeds don't get any light, they die off. And to be honest, that's quite a nice way to start your weeding. Again, some of the deep-rooted weeds will come through, but then you just dig those up separately. So let's have a look at my deep-rooted weeds. You see that all right? Great. You are bound to get creeping buttercup. Now this one you can just skim the head off and no problem, but the roots do tend to grow back again. So that might take a little bit more digging out. No problem, I can compost that. Nettles. Now this will amaze you, I know, but they're called stingy nettles because they sting. Some of my Year 4 children a couple of years ago didn't know that. Now, I had to think long and hard about sharing weeding with you because a lot of them can be quite nasty. A lot of them can irritate or hurt you. So you have to be careful. It's definitely a gloves job. Stingy nettles, you can take the tops off and the top can go in the compost bin, but the roots mustn't. And the roots are quite yellow, so you'll be able to spot them when you're digging. Those go in a separate pile. Dandelions, beautiful, but not in my vegetable garden. They have a very long root called a taproot, and it goes right down into the soil to tap into the water supply. If I leave any of that in the soil when I'm skimming, it will just come back up again. Now, some people do use a rotavator, and it's like a little lawnmower but with blades on it, and it cuts through the soil and churns it up and saves people digging. But if you've got deep-rooted weeds in your garden already, all the rotavator will do is chop it up and spread it about. And if I chop that root into 10 pieces, I will have 10 dandelions. So it's worth spending a bit of time and getting it right. This one has to go on the drying out pile. What else have I got? Dock leaves. Wherever you get nettles, you are bound to get docks. But they are quite useful because when the stingy nettles sting you, dock leaves can help. But again, it's one of those with the long taproot. If I cut it into 5 pieces, how many docks will I get? 5. That goes in the drying out pile. This one is an absolute tinker. You will find it wrapping itself round just about everything. It's called convolvulus. And the roots of this one are very thick and white. That's going in the dry up pile. I'll tell you about that in a moment. When you are going through your soil, it is worth crumbling it to get every piece of that, looks like spaghetti when it's in the soil, every bit of that root out, otherwise it will grow back. What else have I got? I think that might be it. For now, we're bound to find more as we go. So, let me clear my table, hold on. All of these weeds, the ones with the nasty roots, they're what I call pernicious weeds. Oh, posh word alert. Pernicious. You can look that up when you get home. P-E-R-N-I-C-I-O-U-S. Pernicious. All of these I can leave out in the sun to dry up. Once they're dry, and I mean really dry, for Star Wars fans I'm talking Darth Sidious dry. Then when they are completely dried out and lifeless, then I could put them in the compost bin. To be honest, my son's got enough weeds on here. I don't want to put them in the compost bin and risk it because they'll just come back and grow. So those I'm going to take home and put in my recycle bin. Everything else could go in the compost bin, and we'll talk about compost again another time. I think that's it for now. All I need to do is finish this bit of ground with my hoe and then get it all prepared, ready for sowing my crop. Allotments, like everywhere else, can be dangerous places. There are weeds, there are things to trip over, metal posts, plastic, sharp tools, there's all sorts of things. And I thought, do I really want to show you how to do weeding? Because it is something that your grown-ups need to do. But grown-ups, our children need to learn what is risky and how to assess it and manage it. And if we don't guide them and show them, how will they learn? So it's up to you. You know your children. You know if you can be with them, right beside them, which tools they can use. And let them take a little bit of risk, safely, please. Children, watch out for your grown-ups. When they're digging in the ground with a spade or a fork, if they get distracted, they could easily have an accident. So please look after each other, okay? That sounds a bit serious, doesn't it? Sorry about that, guys, but your safety is the most important thing, okay? See you soon.